Okay, so right now you and your groups should be modeling inside those purple boxes each of the numbers above the purple box using this information right here to help you with your sketches. So looking over these rectangles, you and your group should have something similar to this. On the first one, you're representing 2 and 53 hundredths. So it tells me this is representing one whole, this is 1/10, and this is 1/100th. So if I have two squares, that's the two wholes. The 53 hundredths is represented by the lines and the dots. Okay, 1 and 48 hundredths. I have one square, I have 4 rods, and I have 8 dots. And then last, I'm given the number in expanded form, also known as expanded notation, because I'm showing how to get the value. So I do 3 times 1. That means I have 3 of the ones. I have 2 of the tenths, and then I have 7 of the hundredths. Are there any questions on how to show that? Yes. Okay, moving on. What if I'm given a number in standard form and it looks like this, 4.192. First, I have to know how to read the number correctly because saying 4.192 is not the correct way to read a number. How would I read that number? Does anybody know? Yes.
4 and 192 thousandths.
Beautiful. 4 and 192 thousandths. Let's all say it together.
4 and 192 thousandths.
Very good. So now we're going to write it in words. 4, and you can print, and 190-2 thousandths. For expanded form, we are going to practice writing it in expanded notation form because that's what our book has been doing. So we're going to start transitioning to that notation format where I'm actually showing how to get the value. So if I'm showing the value of 4, I multiply 4 times 1 plus the digit in the tenths place is a 1. So 1 times 1/10. There's only one of them. Plus, what's the digit in the hundredths place? 9 times 1/100th. Plus, what digit is in the thousandths place? 2 times 1,000th. So on your practice today, and as we do our in-class practice today, that's the format that we're going to be looking for expanded form. Okay. Okay, looking at page 34 in your book, you should see this at the top. It says, in a place value chart, whole numbers are to the left of the decimal point. Decimals are to the right. Write 2.857 in word form and expanded form. Okay, now remember, when we read a decimal, we do not want to say what I just said, 2.857. The reason I purposefully said that is because I want us to practice the correct way to say it. This example's already been done for us. So the way that I read that number, if you just want to read the words, everybody say it with me. 2 and 857 thousandths. Very good. And the expanded form is going to look like this. Okay, so let's jump down and start some practice. We have 0 and, how do I read that number?
398
Thousandths. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start by writing 300. No and. 398 thousandths. It's basically the word thousand with a THS at the end. I noticed on some of our cut and paste place value charts that we did a long time ago with the coloring and the cut and paste, we were mixing up the words that ended with THS with just the root word, thousands place versus the thousandths place. THSs are all of my decimal place values. Okay, if it ends in a THS, it should be after the decimal point. Expanded form, how might that look? I don't have any holes. Yep, 3 times 1/10 because the 3 is in the tenths place. Plus 9 times, what place is the 9 in? The hundredth, so it'd be 9 times 100th. Plus, I have an 8 times 1,000th. Number 2, I'm not given the standard form this time. Standard form, if it ever asks you to write a number in standard form, it's wanting you to write it just how a normal number looks. Okay, standard form is just a normal looking number. It gives it to us this time in word form. It reads 8 and 46 thousandths. Remember that word and means decimal. So everybody underline the word and put a big decimal there. Okay, so I have 8 and, that means the 8 is my whole number, 46 thousandths. How do I write 46 thousandths? Be very careful, Riker.
0.46.
No point, just 0.46. There you go, perfect.
That would be, if we didn't put the 0, would that be that 100?
Very good. So then how would, if we forgot the 0, what would that number actually read? 8 and 46 hundredths. Yes, very good. Okay, so yeah, if we forget that 0, it's super important because now we have 46 hundredths, not 46 thousandths. We want the last digit to end in whatever place it tells me here. All right, expanded form. Do you want to try it and then check it?
Yeah.
Okay, try it on your own and then we'll check it. I had somebody ask, do we have to list the 0? You do not. If you don't have a digit in that place, you can leave it completely out. Do you think it'd be okay to add it in?
Yeah.
You could, but you don't have to. You can just leave it out completely. Okay, if you've already checked with your group mates, check the board, see if you did it the same way that I did. It should match. So if you have something different, just erase and fix, because I want to make sure your notes in your book are correct. Okay, we've practiced writing 3 forms of numbers: standard, word, expanded. Standard, word, expanded, 3 forms. Standard, word, expanded, 3 forms. Okay? Write the value of the underlined digit. That's the next section. So when I talk about value, I'm not talking about place. I don't want you to tell me the tenths place. I want you to tell me, what is it worth? What is the value? Value means worth. Think about money, okay? The value of this cup is probably not very much because it's very old and the lid is broken. I've had to keep up with this little top piece that keeps falling off. So the value is probably not worth very much. Okay, think about that with numbers. What is this number worth, not the place? A lot of times students will confuse that and you'll think that I'm asking for the place and you'll put tenths here. but I don't want to know that. I know it's in the tenths place. What is 4 in the tenths place worth? Okay, so what I'm looking for here is, let me change my color, 4 tenths. Okay, that's what I'm looking for on these examples. Could I write that as a decimal also? Could I write it like this? Yeah, they're the same. It doesn't tell me how to write it. It just says what's the value. That fraction, that decimal, they're both the same value. Okay? What is the value of the 9 in number 4? Vivian? 9/100ths. So maybe I write it like this to show 9/100ths. So make sure yours matches mine. I want to make sure we have all the right things. And then number 5, I would have 6 thousandths. Only the underlined digit is what I want to show the value of. I want you to have at least both. If you did the fraction, I want you to also have the decimal, since our lesson is all about decimals. So on your practice for today, since our lesson is called decimals, what is it called exactly? I forget. Let me go back and see. Place value of decimals is what it's called. So on your practice, let's go ahead and practice writing them as decimals, since that's what this whole lesson is kind of focusing on. Okay? All right, jumping to the next page. Are we at the bottom? Okay. It says which doesn't belong. Which number does not belong with the other 3? I have 11 thousandths. How do I read this number?
11,000.
I have 1/100th plus 1/1,000. What if I added a number to the end of, remember how we said we can add a 0? What if I made this out of 1,000ths? Would 10 plus 1 give me 11 thousandths then? So which one doesn't belong?
The purple one.
This one. Okay, y'all try number 7. You have one that we did together. Try 7, see if you can figure it out. Okay, 20 thousandths is the first one. Then I have 20 hundredths. What if I put a 0 at the end of this? How would I read that number now? 200,000. So far I don't have a match. So far these first 2 don't match. I go to the next one. I have 20 thousandths. This one matches this one. But this throws me off. 2 hundredths. Jeb, explain.
So it's there's a 2 in 100th place and a 0 in 1,000th place.
Yep. So if I write 2 hundredths like this, I could tack in a 0, and now I read it as 20 thousandths. So which one doesn't belong? The orange one. Very good. Guys, make sure you have what I have. If I write something on my paper, you need to have the same thing on your paper. So if I write a 0 in a place, I want you to have zeros in the same place. I want you to put zeros everywhere where I put it and write every number that I write. That way you can go back and use this to help you. Okay, number 8. Says complete each expanded form to make all 3 expressions equivalent. Circle the expression that you prefer to look at. Okay, so looking at the very first one, I have 2 times 1 plus 1 times 1/10 plus 5 times 100th plus, I'm trying to show 7 thousandths. So what would I have to put here? Because I already have 1 1,000th, but I need a total of 7 1,000th. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, it would be 7. Very good. Okay, the next one is kind of like our traditional expanded form, what we're used to seeing. So we have 2 plus 0.1 plus what would go in the blue box? 0.05. And then the last one, I have 2 times 1. This time it's not fractions, it's decimals. So plus 1 times 0.1 plus 5 times 0.01 plus 7 times 0.001. These are all 3 the exact same thing. This one just has fractions. This one has decimals. And this one doesn't show how I'm getting the value of each digit. It's literally only showing me what the value is. Number 9 says compare the values of the 4s and the number 0.844. How do I read that number? Vivian, want to try? No? Jeb?
844,000.
844 Very good. Okay, so I'm going to compare. This is what we've been seeing. This was actually on your test. You had one question just like this. So I'm going to compare the 4s. It says times as great. So that means the bigger or the smaller number will be first. What do you think? Times as great. The bigger number will go first because it's greater. So the 4 in the hundredths place, 4 hundredths, is how many times greater than the 4 in the thousandths place? How many places over did I go? Only 1. So that means it's 10 times as great as 0.004, which is 4 thousandths. Okay, try 10, and then we'll check it. Okay, on this one, the 3 in the ones place is the bigger value. Because it says times as great, 3 is 10 times as great as 3/10. Okay, how do we feel on that? Okay so far? Okay. Number 11, write 3 decimals that are equivalent to 6 times 1 plus 4 times 1/10. Ooh, what could I do? My first one might be 6.4. I have 6 wholes, I have 6 ones, and I have 4/10. So 6.4. But how else could I write decimals that are equivalent to that? Jason, what's one? Not 4 points. I don't want to change the places.
6.4.
Uh-huh. Levi?
6 and 0. Your fourths?
Do I want to put a 0 before the 4?
No.
Think about, do I want 40 cents or do I want 4 cents?
4 cents. 40.
I want 40 cents. That 4 should stay where it is. These numbers should not go anywhere. It should be 6.4, but I can add a 0 to the end. Now I read it. I go from 6 and 4/10 to 6 and 40 hundredths. I could also do 6 and 400 thousandths. Those are all the same values. You just say them differently. If I plug in, if I flip-flop and do 0.4, instead of having 6.40, now I have 6.04. They're different values. Do you see how adding zeros to the end of a decimal number doesn't change what it's worth? It just changes how you say it. Okay, circle the 2 decimals that are equivalent. What did you get?
0 and 300ths and 0 and...
Very good. So Vivian has these 2 circled. You should have the same 2 circled. 300ths and 30 thousandths. It's the exact same amount. What is the difference? Can somebody raise their hand and tell me what's different? Fala? Nope. Yes.
Was the pictures added on 1 0?
Yeah.
But the other 2 that weren't circled, those are just not in the right place as the other 3, so that's why we didn't circle.
Very good. So the 3 in this one is in the same exact place. It's in the hundredths place. All I did was add a 0, Bo said. But if I look at this one, the 3 is in the tenths place, which changes the value. And in this one, the 3 is in the thousandths place, which also changes the value. Okay, looking at our real life examples with money. I always refer back to money. Just a minute ago, I was saying 40 cents or 4 cents. Okay, it helps us visualize what's happening. So looking at this one, it says, select all the expressions that represent the amount of money in dollars that is shown. Okay, multiple ways to show the same number. C and E would be your examples. 2 times 10 is the same as 20. 3 times 1 is the same as 3. What's wrong with B? What did it leave out? What did B leave out? What's different about B than C? What is different about letter B than C? Yeah, it left out the $3. Okay, I don't want that one. I want the one that gives me the $3 also. I don't want the one that's just the 20 and the change. Give me all of it. Okay, it's all there. I want all of that. All right, let's look at our practice. 2 baseball players have batting averages of 358 thousandths and 345 thousandths. How do the values of the fives compare? So I'm focusing on the 5 here and the 5 here. How do those compare? What I'm looking for in this one is you showing me the value, okay? We've done one like this before with whole numbers. Now we're dealing with decimals. So the value of the 5 and 358 thousandths, and we can just show that 5 hundredths is how many times as great as the 5 in the other number? Is 10 times as great as 5 thousandths. It's only 1 decimal place to the left. So it's just 10 times as great. What if the 5 though, what if the 5 had been here where the 3 is? How many times as great would it be then? It's now 2 places away from the 5 and the thousandths place. So how many times as great would it be? Not 10, but how much? How far away, if the 5 is here where the 3 is, how far away is it from the 5 and the thousandths place? How many places? If I change this 5 to where the 3 is, it would be 2 places. So how many times as great would it be if it were there? 100 times as great. Very good. Okay, the stopwatch shows a runner's 100-meter dash time. How do I write that time in word form? How do I say it? I have to know how to say it first. Go ahead and read it for us.
15 and 76,000, hundredths.
Very good. So 15 and 76 hundredths. And remember, it's just 100 with a THS at the end. Remember we talked about, we've seen this check before. It came up in a lesson a few lessons back. Knowing how to write money or decimal numbers in word form is very important because we sometimes have to write checks. Still, even in this modern day, we still have to write checks for some things. Okay, the way we're going to write this isn't typically how you would do a real check because sometimes you do it a little different. You write like the cent or the change part as like a fraction, but we are working on writing everything in word form. So what we want to do is write the amount in standard form. It's giving it to us in expanded. It's right here. 600 plus 90 plus 0.5. What does that look like in standard form, first of all, Jason? Exact. Well, not 5 cents because it's 0.5, but money has to be 2 digits. So what could I do to make 5 tenths a 2-digit decimal? I would put a 0 at the end. It doesn't change the value, but it now makes it appropriate for money. How many decimals does money always have? How many decimal places? 2 all the time. So this won't work. I can't have just $690.5. It doesn't work like that. You have to put that 0 at the end to make it look like 50 cents. Okay, so in word form, 690. $690 and 50 hundredths dollars.